We can learn a lot from water. Water is a very interesting liquid. It's probably one of the most important, if not the most important element on planet Earth. It helps us with energy, it helps us with hydration, with food, with fuel, um, with first aid. Water is a ubiquitously, that's the right way of saying it, um, useful element, if not the most important element on the planet. And my next kind of tool that I use, or I've started to try and use, is linked to water, and particularly the element of flow. Flow from the outside might seem quite gentle, but it can be one of the most powerful forces on the planet when it comes to even changing the way the land is and land masses geographically. So this technique kind of applies the characteristics of flow, maybe in this case the flow of water, you can take as an example, um, in order to help manage your life. In life, we'll have a lot of different flows. Um, we'll have there's various aspects of this. So firstly, the direction of the flow. So there will be something called the forward flow, which is things that we're using to aspects of our life that we're using to progress forward, and there will be aspects of our life known as backwards flow. So backwards flow is stuff that is pushing against us from achieving our goals. So if we take an example, I like to link it to my own lifestyle of off-grid living, for anyone who wants to, or even increased sense of minimalism. Um, a forward flow might well be, okay, I want to set up an office in my van. So what kind of things am I doing to create an office environment to make myself look more professional, even if I have an alternative living arrangement? So that to me is a forward flow because it helps me think. In turn, it can help me create a more professional um, version of myself that can network better and that can create ultimately more sales, more connections, and pass more interviews and, and get more contracts. So that's a forward flow. A backward flow is maybe you're in work. This happened to me a little while ago. You're at work and you're getting a little bit of stigma about the way you live and about what you do. So you're getting backlash from other team members, and you're trying to push through that because it's quite annoying and you can't focus on your work because people are telling you things that they shouldn't be telling you, um, because they're to make them feel better about themselves. So that's the backward flow. Whether you like it or not, you will always have backward flows. It may be more apparent in certain parts of your life than others. Right now, I'm in the best point of life, so I don't really have any backward flows as such, and everything's moving forward. But there will be, I'll anticipate, a backward flow eventually in some form or another, and it has been in definitely the earlier years of my life. So your idea is to mostly have forward flows to begin with and learn how to either manage or change the backward flows so that they move to a forward flow. So, for example, if we take a backward flow of a case of stigma or maybe harassment or bullying in the workplace, you may be able to confront them and say in a most polite way, look, I need to talk to you for 2 minutes. I don't think that was acceptable. I don't want to have to escalate this. So that's something that would immediately, especially in this day and age, make people extremely wary and careful and not trip on toes as much in terms of what they're doing. So that changes it, and then you get more respects. Not only that, you can focus on more constructive conversations, knowing that destructive conversations are being moved away. So that is a backward flow that's been turned into a forward flow. So you've got the forward flow, you've got the you've got the backward flow. So the idea, first of all, in this flow analysis of life, and something that I've just termed and coined, is first of all understanding the direction of flows that you're currently facing at the moment. What direction are they going to? your aim should be to get as many forward flows as possible and to construct, change, or at least remove the backward flows because they're hampering the progress in your life. So that's like the first aspect of it. The second aspect now is looking at flows. So now we've touched upon the types of flows that you can have. And usually in my application, I have two types of flows. The next aspect is how are you categorizing the forward flows? The reason why this technique helps me, or is I'm trying to get it to help me, is because I get quite overwhelmed easily with lots of ideas. So what happens is none of the ideas progress, or I don't feel like they're progressing enough, and I don't feel like objectively sometimes I want to be in the position where I want to be. So it's all work in progress, but sometimes I feel like I'm objectively not on the right track, and that a lot of it is excess buzz, and I want to be able to translate once again ideas into products. So this is where the categorization of flows comes in. So what's useful, as you can see in my notepad here, is I've got loads of lines, and that's something you can do. So you've got loads of lines. There's lines that represent flows, and each flow is a category of an activity or task that you're trying to pursue. And list all those lines first. So every time you think of an activity that you're trying to pursue, a project that you're trying to pursue, just illustrate it as a line and then label it. And you're going to have a lot of lines. You can end up with a lot of lines on this page, right? So those are all your flows. And assuming they're only forward flows, because you've tackled all the backward flows and that are hampering your forward flows. So you focus on your forward flows. So you're going to have a lot of lines, and that's the point where you need to look at categorization, because now you've got all these lines, you've learned out all these lines, these are all your flows, right? So you might have one thing that, okay, in my personal life I want to be better at admin, and so what I'm doing is this little admin, I want to set up a calendar, and my fitness journey, I have another flow that's completely different, and I want to increase my weight, so I want to increase that. So what you've got to do is you've got to categorize. Now there's a few ways you can categorize your flows. The number one is you can categorize your flows by the length of how long they'll take to achieve. So say for example it's sometimes you might have a legal case that you're pursuing, and that will be a very long-term flow, and so that flow will have been paused, and it needs to be, and sometimes these flows might stop flowing, but then you'll know they will start flowing again at a later date when something happens or when a trigger occurs. So you're going to have long-term flows. You can have flows that have stopped and that you need to restart, and that will start flowing again, based on a particular moment that's holding you back. And then you will have the short-term flows, which are things that you can do quite quickly and that can help to increase the productivity of your life and the successful outcomes of your life. So that will be the next stage. Now, the way you categorize it is entirely up to you and how your mind best works. For me, I'm looking at doing a long-term, short-term, because I'm quite linear in a lot of ways, I think. And even though I'm trying to not be linear, a lot of the ways I am quite methodical. And so for me, a long-term, short-term might work. But I may equally go about it and trial it by activity, so by admin, by marketing, by certain aspects. Another way, I did an earlier video, I believe, and I talk about treating your life as a business. That you've got to make money, and that you've got to save on costs. You've got to create a profit, essentially a profit, and the side product of that is just like in a business. You've got to have some form of well-being. So, that could be for me, and you could be having fun, with your partner. That is ultimately the purpose and the mission. But objectively, your life should be treated like a business, and you should be avoiding debt and essentially liquidation in your life. So, knowing that, there is another flow model that you can use, and it's called the life as a business flow model. So the three aspects there are supply, production, and sales. So your sales are you're either finding a job, a higher paying job. It's or it's maybe getting new contracts, seizing new contracts, seizing new deals. So that's your sales aspect of your flow. So you might have various different activities and flows within that, like, oh, I'm going to have to apply for these many jobs, I'm going to have to contact these many people, I'm going to have to network on these many conferences. So those are like your sales based flows. And then your production flows are your actual job, what you're currently doing, what you're currently achieving, how are you spending time on that. Okay, so I'll do this and this one. There's an existing client, or for an existing individual, or an existing employer. These are my goals for them. And then finally, you'll have supply flows, and this is how are you setting your environment up for success? Who are you having in your circle? Okay, so if it's your furniture, if it's okay, so I'm gonna first of all, do I actually need this set up here in the first place? In my place, how will this benefit me? Objectively, how will this benefit me? So you're looking at stuff like, you know, how you wear, what you dress, how you put your fitness, your fuel, your food, your nutrition, your fitness, your shelter you're in, how you're sleeping. You know, these are all aspects. Your screen time, how you can control that. These are all aspects that can improve, that can benefit you and your production, because these are suppliers. These effectively are like supply constraints that affect the way that you produce in life, and the way you produce output in life, and you create success for yourself. So those are the three aspects. That's just another way of having flows in the having flows in life, and maybe another way to visualize that. It's just something I've recently come up with. If you want any particular help with it, just let me know. Comment. These are all ideas and techniques. I may even go ahead and write a resource guide or a book. It's just something in the interest, you know, in terms of development, and something that helps me. So usually all of these things are things that help me. So if they help me, I'm hoping it might help you, and that's why I do these videos. And yeah, that's really it, to be honest. So thanks so much for tuning in and listening to my rambles once again. I might do a bit of edits on here, maybe put a bit of graphics as well. But yeah, thank you so much.